Hi, I'm Renarta Clanton Moyd. I'm a communications specialist with the Cumberland County Schools and your host of Get Connected. During this monthly show, we highlight numerous educational topics that face today's student, educator, and parent in the Cumberland County Schools. With a new school year comes new and exciting things in the classroom, and this year is no exception. As students of all ages return this fall, they'll be immersed in more rigorous and complex learning that aligns with college and workforce expectations on this edition of Get Connected.
It's never too early to start reading to your kids. There are amazing possibilities when you open a child's mind to reading. Explore new worlds. Read.
It's fun to sing,
zippity zip zip zin zin zin,
dance, and play music every day.
Yeah, go for it!
Doing something artistic inspires creativity and helps you succeed in school and life.
Hooray!
Play music, paint, and dance together as a family.
Come on, team!
Blast off with the arts.
Blast off!
For 10 ways to add the arts into your life, visit americansforthearts.org.
Again, thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected, where we're talking with Allison Violette, the Associate Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction in the Cumberland County Schools, Jane Barnes, the Executive Director of Elementary Education, and John Gibbs, the Executive Director of Secondary Education. Allison, Jane, John, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Now, you know what? All of you have been on here before, so this will be fun. And I think, John, you need to become a co-host. I really do.
I don't know about all that.
In June. Well, you know what? In my introduction, I talked about this new and exciting thing that will be happening in our classrooms. Tell us about it. What's going to happen? What's going on?
Well, we are excited, Renarta. Cumberland County Schools, along with the state of North Carolina, will be implementing a new curriculum for the 12-13 school year. This curriculum has been developed and done in collaboration with other states and organizations that help to really bring our level of education to a point where our students will be prepared to compete globally. They'll be ready not only for college if they choose, or if they choose the career field, they'll be ready for that. You probably have heard the terminology Common Core.
Yes, I have.
And that is part of what will be implemented in our school system in all our classrooms next year is the Common Core state standards.
And you know, I'm sure a lot of people have heard Common Core and may have even heard essential standards and you know, just all the terminology and kind of felt a bit intimidated by it. But it's really a very simple concept, correct?
It is.
And we have a standard course of study in North Carolina, and we're going to continue to have a standard course of study. And what that involves is we started with a new curriculum with English Language Arts and Math, and that became known as the Common Core.
That's the Common Core.
That is the Common Core. But we have a number of other content areas: social studies, science, the world languages, PE, art, music. Well, that curriculum has also been going through a revision, and so we will have new standards not only in English Language Arts and Math, but in also all the other curriculum areas.
Now those
and
other
that together forms our standard course of study for the new year.
Okay, so we have the Common Core, which is English Language Arts, and then the other subjects are essential standards, correct?
Right.
That's correct.
And so when you put them together, 1 + 1 equals the new common. Okay, the new
standards.
courses.
Okay, well, okay, I'm there. I'm really there. I'm there with you all. Now, let me ask you this. What has taken us a bit to align ourselves with what a lot of other states are doing as far as, everyone singing off the same sheet of paper?
And it is
Or
that way
reading
with the
off.
Common Core. And in fact, the Common Core is just that. It's a common set of learning standards that have been developed and state-led by a consortium of leaders, educational leaders, business leaders, experts in the field of research around what it is that students need to know and be able to do to be successful. So it really means having a very clear and consistent and coherent set of standards that all of our students will have access to in North Carolina as well as other states across the nation. The Common Core State Standards Initiative is our standards that have been adopted by well over 45 states in the United States. So it certainly gives a consistency across states. So if a child moves from out of state into North Carolina, they will be taught the same curriculum. So there is a definite benefit for our students that are very mobile. And with Fort Bragg and us being a military community, that very well will impact us in a positive way.
That's good. I know when you were here the other month and Renee was here and we were talking about Race to the Top funding and those types of things, that was one of the different, one of the topics we discussed about, that seamless type of education across the board for our country.
It is really outstanding that, especially here in Cumberland County and the Cumberland County school systems, that we can offer for all our children, whether they go from one school to another, they're going to be getting the same education. It's an equal playing field, and it's really not just Cumberland County, the state of North Carolina, and in the United States. So we're excited that we're able to be together as a unit and work together for the better of our children.
That's good. And something that you mentioned as well, Allison, as far as a consortium of people coming together. I know federal government can't necessarily get involved in this.
Right.
So it was what, governing body as well as the heads of education?
Yes, the
each
National Governors Association as well as the Chief State School Officials Association came together and with a lot of input, not just from educators, but from many aspects to give input into what should be the expectations, what should be that common set of learning standards for students. I think it's evident that over time the United States has not stayed at the top of performance, and we have to look at what standards do we need our students to be able to master in order to be globally competitive and to put our students back first in a place where they can be that type of student and ready and really what we call future ready. They're ready whether their choice is to step into a college classroom or whether their choice is to step into the career field. And there was another issue was that the colleges as well as the community business, the partnerships that we have, they were telling us that our students weren't as ready. And so with this initiative in place, we are aiming to have students ready, whatever their path they choose, whether it's college or career. And that's what the Common Core State Standards are intended to do, to have children future ready with whatever choice they want to make about their future.
That's good. That's good. Now, you know what I know in preparing for the interview, the one thing that stuck out to me, the big difference in this is our young people will be taught at a higher level. They're taught at a high level now, but at a higher level as far as the thinking order and those types of things. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I think our educational leaders and our communities have already told us what 21st century skills our students need to have. And I think that in some ways we've been stuck in the past in our education of our children, and these new standards incorporate all of the 21st century skills that our children have to have, and it does require that what we're teaching our children is at a different level of understanding. Our children can't continue to just be able to spit back facts to us.
Right.
They have to be able to analyze situations and evaluate the conditions of things in order to be productive in the workplace or in a college or university.
That's good. That's
As you
good.
heard Jane talk about evaluate, and that's one of our levels of thinking, and we want to be able to have our kids thinking more than just remembering. I remember my father-in-law and people in the past have talked about things that have happened in the back about remembering poetry,
Oh, yeah.
rote memory. Now it's a time of thinking critically and having young people to really be able to express themselves, and that's one of the things with the new Common Core about the English language arts, which Jane will talk about later, about the communicating, about listening, about using those lifelong skills that you can use in the workforce and along with the as a college student.
That's good.
It's about real world. It's like real life, actually making it relevant, that I'm able to apply what I've learned and use it in my life.
Yeah, because I mean, so often, and I know I did as a student, take calculus or physics or whatever, I was in at the time. Well, how is this going to help me? You just don't see how it would, it's going to apply later on in life. But I guess that's what this is going to do. It's going to make that, like you all were saying, relevant and really show the student why it's important you're doing what you're doing. Did you want to say something, Jane?
No, I was just going to say, to me, the key word here is relevance, because we've got to make our learning for our children meaningful and relevant. They've got to see the connection between what they're learning and how that's going to help them be successful. And we can teach them that.
That's true. That is true. All right, now let me ask you this. What should we know as parents, or what should parents know about the new standards? I mean, is it something they need to rush out and say, well, let me get a study book? Or, it sounds so heavy. So what should parents need? I mean, what do they need to know at this point?
Well, I think you're right in that they need to know. That's the first step, I would say. Parents need to be knowledgeable about the new standards, and there is an abundance of resources available for parents online, whether it's on the Common Core website or our National PTA website or even our local website. We try to put resources for parents. I know that Jane's department has worked diligently to put together parent guides for our boys and girls. Would you like to share about that?
And actually, those parent guides will be given to all of our students when school starts in a hard copy that parents will be able to have. And they're wonderful in that they actually spell out at every grade level, K through 12, what children will need to know and be able to do in a way that is organized so that I think it's easy to understand. As we're learning this new curriculum, it's a little challenging for everybody. New terminology and new ways of thinking about how we're going to be teaching our kids. So when I saw this guide that we worked so hard on, when I saw it in reality, I thought this is going to be a great resource. And of course, it'll be available online as well on our website, so parents can access it that way, but they will be having that hard copy come home that first day of school with their children.
Okay, so parents should definitely check book bags and everything else so that they can make sure they get the document. Okay, that sounds good. And I know we talked about, a higher level, a higher order of learning, but how is what they're doing now compared to, or what they've done in the past compared to what will be done? I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, if I could just take this one example, I think this is a huge emphasis that we're going to see a changeover in what our children are reading. We have focused primarily on reading literacy and reading for enjoyment. And we know that our children have to be exposed to reading more informational text and more complex text. If you'll take that old example of us having to read a manual on how to start working our VCR. That's a different kind of reading than a child experiences when they're reading a novel, for instance, a fiction book. And so we've got to teach our children how to read that way and how to think that way. And so that reading of informational text is going to be a big difference that our parents will see in that material. Also, I think the level, the text complexity is going to increase. Our children are going to have to read more deeply and read more complex text at an earlier age.
Okay.
And so that is also going to be something that our parents, it's not so much now, Renarta, about just covering material. It's about covering it in a deep and complex way, maybe less specific topics or standards covered, but in a more complex and deep manner.
Okay.
And they'll see that as a difference. And I'm just speaking of in the English language arts.
Okay, well, you know what? I know, John, you want to jump in. Can we take a quick break? And then, is that all right?
That'd be great.
Okay, all right. When we come back, we'll let you, okay?
Thanks.
All right, so don't go anywhere. Stick around for more Get Connected.
I'm a single mother of 2 kids. I work a lot. We do miss a lot. He dropped off for a whole month. Sometimes I would talk to him and he wouldn't even turn around and look at me. I just get frustrated because in any way that I talk to him, it just doesn't go through his head. I didn't give up because there's always hope.
Give your teen the boost they need to graduate. Call 1-877-4A-KID or join us at boostup.org for tips and advice.
Here comes the rain. We need a hat. And why do we need a hat?
To say John.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Get Connected. Our guests are Allison Violette, the Associate Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction in the Cumberland County Schools, Jane Barnes, the Executive Director of Elementary Education, and John Gibbs, the Executive Director of Secondary Education. Now, we're discussing the new standard course of study and the impact it will have on our classrooms. Now, you know, before we went to the break, Jane, you shared with us how the curriculum is different in terms of reading. John was chomping at the bit, and I'm joking with you, John, to share with us information, I believe, about math. So what is going to be the difference in math?
Well, we want our students to be critical thinkers. We want them to be able to figure out things on their own. You know, in the past, it's always been formulas and things of that nature that were drilled into students, and those will be necessary to a certain extent. But it's different ways of thinking, an opportunity for our teachers to be facilitators, and our students to work hard on how to figure out things, to be more conceptual, and just being able. It's more than one way to do things, and students are so bright, and they can figure those things out. So let them continue to just work together and communicate together, and they can also work together in small groups to figure out things. And of course, that gives you better skills when it comes to the college readiness and it comes to the workforce.
Okay.
I think in the past we've seen our math curriculum has been about content, which of course this will be as well, but there's another piece that's been added, and that's the mathematical practices. And that's what John's talking about. It's the habits we want our students to have to be mathematicians, so that they can analyze, so that they can be able to attend to precision, use tools, be able to think of, you know, in an abstract kind of way. So there are content standards and practice standards when we look at the math curriculum, and that is K-12. So our teachers will be infusing mathematical practices along with their teaching of the content.
That's good. And I know that our educators, our teachers and what have you, have gone through professional development to make sure they're all singing off the same sheet of music as well.
And that music that they're singing off of is the content. That's what's the same. The Common Core, or this new curriculum, does not tell how it should be taught. Teachers still have that flexibility to be the teacher that they are. So, you know, teaching is an art and a science. So the curriculum, the content is that science. This is what's got to be taught. But the way I teach it as a teacher, that's my art.
So that creativity, they get to use that creativity.
Yes.
Perfect word.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
they get to
good.
still. This does not tell teachers how to teach. It tells teachers what to teach.
Good. That's good. Now, once the young people, our children, have learned what they need, how are they assessed? Let's look at that assessment piece.
Well, you can look at assessment in two ways. You can look at what we call our end-of-year assessments, and educators call that our summative assessments. It's at the end, as well as assessments that are happening throughout the school year, and we call those ongoing assessments or formative assessments. But in terms of the end-of-year assessments, much like we have end-of-grade and end-of-course tests now, we will see those next year, but because of new standards, there will be new tests. We will still test children in grades 3 through 8 with an end-of-grade test in reading and math.
Okay.
There will also be an end-of-grade test for science in grades 5 and 8. For our high school students, they will be tested in the English language arts area, which will be actually, our high school students will be tested with an English 2 test, a Algebra 1 test, and a biology test. Okay. So those are the areas that will be our end-of-grade or end-of-course subjects that will be tested for next school year. And new tests have been developed by the Department of Public Instruction. We actually have field tested some of those items this school year, so that they can start, calculating how and what items should be used and how the scoring should be done. But the formative assessments to us are what's most important, because it gives us a chance for our teachers to find out along the way what students are learning.
Right. And the summative assessments?
Summative's the end assessments, but the formative assessments. John, you want to share about the formative assessments?
Yeah, it's real-time assessment. We're very fortunate with our Race to the Top. We have Classcape is one of our tools for assessing. This year, newly implemented, we used 333,000 different assessments this year throughout all our schools in grades 3 through 12. What I mean by real-time assessment is a teacher can give a 5-question quiz and get immediate feedback, immediate results, immediate data to restructure their teaching. Because our teaching is only as good as our learning.
Exactly.
And we want our kids to understand. We have what we call smart response systems, where it's the clickers.
I've seen those.
Yes.
That was real. I went to a classroom and the kids, the young people pressed it, and the teacher got to see who was getting it, who wasn't. And that, it was immediate.
And think about adjusting instruction. So I see that you have it or you don't have it. If you don't have it, what do I need to do differently as a teacher to help you?
Exactly.
And there's certainly a place for that summative or end-of-the-year assessment, but the real change in behavior happens when we're assessing what our children have learned all along. And so that formative assessment it drives the instruction in a classroom, or it should drive the instruction in a classroom.
Can't wait till the end to try to fix something. You need to know along the way what's going well.
Exactly.
And it's not all about a grade. It's about learning. It's about getting better. It's being better today than you were yesterday. And that's what we want our teachers to do and our students to do. So when it comes to the end, that we're going to have great results as we did this year.
All right, that sounds good. You sound like a coach. Did you ever coach?
About 19 years.
Okay. Yes, not today. You sound just like a coach. That's good. That's good. Now, what can parents do to support their children at this point? What are some things that they can do to support their children?
Well, I think when you realize that this new curriculum is all about being future ready, whether that choice is, like I said earlier, to go to college or to step into the workforce, having children ready for that. And from a secondary standpoint, John, is it ever too early to start talking to children about those options?
No, they all have their dreams, and our job as administrators and employees of the Cumberland County School System to give those students opportunities, and that's part of the new curriculum for next year. Next year, we offer 4 social studies classes in the high school level. Now, instead of just U.S. history, we have American History 1 and American History 2. Then our Future Ready Core, where all our kids now are going to 4 maths. So the rigor is there. We're pushing students and giving those opportunities to do what they want to do, whether it is college or whether it's the workforce.
So you can start having those conversations with your child as early as middle school about what do you want to do? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to go into the workforce? Let's talk about your plans of what you want. So that's one thing I think parents can do. I think it's also important that parents build strong relationships with their schools, with the teachers, with the administration. Be involved. Ask questions. Understand how you can support and help students daily. our schools welcome the involvement of parents. We can't do it alone. We recognize that parents are the first teachers.
Exactly.
And to collaboratively together, we can make it happen for kids.
And then we always go back on that adage, you know, it takes a village.
It does.
It really does.
It does.
That has not changed at all.
You know, in the beginning we talked about also staying knowledgeable. Parents need to be knowledgeable about this new curriculum, and there are resources available for parents.
As a matter of fact, you know, we've had several states that have been piloting the new curriculum, and they have developed an enormous amount of resources that are available through the National PTA organization, through their websites, excuse me, and we have adopted those resources through our state PTA that parents can access information. And we've taken it down to our local level and what we are able to provide for our parents as a district so that they can understand about the changes and the new curriculum. And then I know of individual school sites that are already working hard to develop additional resources for those parents that are seeking that information. And that communication is key, because our principals will have available to them all of this information to share with parents. And so we need parents asking questions and schools offering up information, and we just need to let people know that it is available.
That's good. And I know if they want to get information, they can visit the Cumberland County Schools website.
Absolutely.
That's www.ccs.k12.nc.us. We'll probably show it a little later on, you know, in the broadcast. But once they get there on the site, then where should they go from there?
We do have a link that says Curriculum Updates 2012-2013. If you click on that link, it will take you to a page that has numerous links, whether it's to the National PTA, the State PTA, actual Common Core website, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. All of those links are there. We wanted to make it very accessible for parents, so we invite them to access that. And like Jane said, every child will come home on the first day of school with a hard copy of a parent curriculum guide that's specific to their child's grade level.
That's great. Now, I'm looking at the clock on the wall. We're almost out of time. Are there any last words you'd like to share with our viewers about this new standard course of study?
I would say that, like you opened in the beginning, this is an exciting time. We're excited that North Carolina is a part of this curriculum reform, that we are going to be preparing students for a future where they can be globally competitive. Our standards are going to prepare them and make them ready. And as an educator, I'm proud to say that we're a part of that we are going to be preparing students for a world where they have options, where they have choices, whether that is to go to college or whether it's to step into the career field.
All right.
And it is exciting. It's an exciting time for all of us, and our teachers are feeling it, and our kids, I think, are even talking about it, and so we just need to get everybody talking about the excitement that's ahead for us.
That's good. And I guess our coach wants to say hurrah.
Yeah, we are. We want the parents just to keep pushing their children, and you know, the sky's the limit.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so very much for joining us. We'll have to have you back, okay?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Well, on behalf of the Cumberland County School System, we want to thank you for tuning in to this edition of our show and for giving us a chance to help you get connected. Until next time.